Good evening and welcome to USA Weekly News Plus. I'm your host, Barkan L, bringing you the most important global events of the past week. Tonight, we'll cover a range of critical developments, from the outcomes of the Global Climate Summit to the escalating tensions in the Middle East. We'll also delve into economic crises, groundbreaking scientific achievements, and political upheavals shaping our world. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and comment. Your engagement keeps us going. Now let's dive into the top news stories. World leaders convened this week for a critical climate summit, facing the urgent need to address the growing climate crisis. After days of intense negotiations, a comprehensive climate action plan was agreed upon, signaling a potential turning point in the fight against global warming. The agreement includes ambitious targets for reducing global carbon emissions, with a focus on transitioning away from fossil fuels. A key element of the plan is the commitment to phase out coal-fired power plants, a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, a $50 billion Green Climate Fund has been established to support developing nations in their efforts to adapt to climate change and transition to cleaner energy sources.
Turning now to the Middle East, where the conflict between Israel and Hamas has escalated dramatically in recent days. The region has witnessed a surge in rocket attacks and airstrikes, resulting in a devastating loss of life and widespread destruction. Civilian areas have been caught in the crossfire, with homes, schools, and hospitals bearing the brunt of the violence. The international community is deeply concerned about the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Gaza, where access to essential supplies and medical care is severely limited. Intense diplomatic efforts are underway to broker a ceasefire agreement between the warring parties, but a lasting solution to the decades-long conflict remains elusive. Argentina, once an economic powerhouse in South America, is now grappling with a devastating economic crisis. Hyperinflation has become a harsh reality, eroding purchasing power and plunging many into poverty. The value of the peso has plummeted, making it difficult to afford basic necessities. The government has turned to the IMF for assistance. Negotiations for a loan package are ongoing, but these talks have mixed reactions. Some see the IMF as a lifeline, others with suspicion. The economic turmoil has ignited widespread protests. Citizens express frustration at the government's handling of the crisis. These protests underscore the deep-seated economic anxieties gripping the nation. The path forward remains uncertain, but addressing this crisis requires a concerted effort.
China continues to make significant strides in its ambitious space program, achieving remarkable success with its recent Chang'e 6 mission. This mission marked a historic milestone, as China became the first nation to successfully land a spacecraft on the far side of the Moon, a feat that had long eluded other spacefaring nations. The Chang'e 6 mission deployed the U-23 rover, a sophisticated robotic explorer tasked with studying the lunar surface and conducting scientific experiments. Equipped with advanced instruments and cameras, U-23 has been transmitting valuable data back to Earth, providing scientists with unprecedented insights into the composition and history of the Moon. China's accomplishments in space exploration are not merely a matter of national pride. They represent a significant leap forward for humanity's understanding of the cosmos. The data collected by missions like Chang'e 6 has the potential to unlock new secrets about the Moon's formation, the early solar system, and even the origins of life itself. As China continues to push the boundaries of space exploration, the world watches with anticipation. The success of the Chang'e 6 mission is a testament to China's growing technological prowess and its unwavering commitment to unraveling the mysteries of the universe. Sudan stands at a critical juncture, grappling with a fragile political transition following years of authoritarian rule. Protests against the former regime continue, with citizens demanding a swift transition to civilian rule. The path to democracy is fraught with challenges, as deep-seated divisions and mistrust persist. The international community urges all parties to engage in dialogue for a peaceful political process. The African Union and the United Nations emphasize upholding human rights and the rule of law. Addressing the legacy of conflict and human rights abuses is crucial for lasting peace. The transition to democracy in Sudan requires patience, compromise, and a shared commitment.
The situation in Eastern Europe remains tense tonight, with a heavy Russian military presence along the Ukrainian border causing deep concern among Western allies. Satellite images and intelligence reports show a significant buildup of troops, tanks, and artillery, raising fears of a potential invasion. The Kremlin, however, maintains that these movements are purely defensive and part of routine military exercises. They've accused the West of fueling hysteria and ignoring Russia's own security concerns. The United States and NATO allies have called for de-escalation and a diplomatic solution, but also warn of severe economic consequences should Russia choose the path of aggression. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been engaged in intense diplomatic efforts, meeting with both Ukrainian and Russian counterparts to find a peaceful resolution. But with both sides digging in their heels, the question remains: will diplomacy prevail, or will this volatile situation spiral into a dangerous conflict with global ramifications? Turning now to the Korean Peninsula, where North Korea has once again rattled the international community with a series of ballistic missile launches. These tests, which violate numerous UN Security Council resolutions, mark a significant escalation in Pyongyang's weapons program. The missiles, launched in recent weeks, flew over Japanese territory before landing in the sea, triggering alarm bells in the region. While North Korea claims these tests are for self-defense purposes, they are widely seen as a provocative show of force and an attempt to strengthen its negotiating position. The international community has condemned the launches, with the UN Security Council holding emergency meetings to discuss a coordinated response. The United States and its allies have called for tougher sanctions against North Korea, but China and Russia, both with veto power on the Council, have traditionally resisted such measures.
Finally tonight, we turn to Vienna, where delicate negotiations aimed at reviving the Iran nuclear deal are hanging by a thread. The landmark 2015 agreement, which placed strict limits on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, unraveled after the Trump administration withdrew the United States in 2018. Now, after months of indirect talks, significant hurdles remain. The Biden administration has expressed willingness to rejoin the deal, but insists that Iran must first return to compliance with the original terms. Iran, on the other hand, demands the immediate lifting of all sanctions imposed by the Trump administration. The stakes are incredibly high. A collapse of the negotiations could lead to a regional arms race and increase the risk of military conflict. Success, however, could pave the way for a thaw in relations between the United States and Iran, and potentially de-escalate tensions in the volatile Middle East. Good evening, and we turn now to a developing story in Europe, where many nations are facing a crippling energy crisis. Across the continent, energy prices have skyrocketed, leaving many families struggling to pay their bills as winter approaches. This crisis is the result of a perfect storm of factors. Reduced natural gas supplies from Russia, coupled with increased demand following the pandemic, have put immense pressure on energy markets. We've also seen lower wind speeds in some areas impacting renewable energy generation, further exacerbating the situation. Governments across Europe are scrambling for solutions. Some countries are offering subsidies to help citizens cope with rising costs, while others are looking to diversify their energy sources. But with winter fast approaching, the question remains, will it be enough?
From Europe, we shift our attention to South America, where the Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the planet, faces an increasingly dire situation. Deforestation rates have surged in recent years, with devastating consequences for the environment and global climate change. The primary driver of this deforestation: illegal logging, mining and land clearing for agriculture. These activities are driven by a complex web of factors, including poverty, lack of economic opportunity, and weak law enforcement. The consequences, however, are felt far beyond the Amazon basin. The Amazon plays a critical role in regulating the global climate, absorbing vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Its destruction not only releases this stored carbon back into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change, but also threatens biodiversity, displaces indigenous communities, and disrupts vital ecosystems. The situation demands urgent action. Environmental groups are working tirelessly to raise awareness and combat illegal activities. The international community must also step up and provide support for sustainable economic development and conservation efforts. The fate of the Amazon, and indeed the planet, may depend on it. That's all the time we have for tonight. From the energy crisis gripping Europe to the alarming deforestation rates in the Amazon, the challenges facing our world are complex and interconnected. But it's more important than ever to stay informed, engage in meaningful dialogue, and demand action from our leaders. Thank you for watching USA Weekly News Plus. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and comment.